and welcome to another episode of I'd Amanda Homestead. My name is Amanda, and today it is a beautiful early fall day here in southern Ontario in Canada, and it is a perfect day to go looking for foraging for mushrooms. Specifically today we are talking about puffballs, okay? These are a type of mushroom, and they can grow to be like huge sizes. Here's a picture of the biggest one that I've kind of found in our backwoods here, but I know they can get to be like monstrous. First, we should kind of say about how to identify this mushroom. It looks kind of like a blob. Here's one, here's another, okay? It's got a little stalk, usually. Let me see if you can see it better there, where it attaches to the earth, okay? And then the most important thing, when you cut this open, it is pure white inside, all right? If you see any discoloration, if you see any like other structures like gills or anything like that inside there, do not eat it. It's not a puffball, okay? And if it's got discoloration, it may be an old puffball, and you don't want to eat that either. If it's gone yellow or green, it should be pure white inside, like a ball of mozzarella or like a really firm white bread, okay? That's what it should look like inside. Other than that, don't eat it. If you are not sure, ask somebody else, okay? Don't take my word for it. The other one that we're going to look for today is another kind of puffball, but it's called a pear-shaped puffball. Let me bring it close here. You can kind of see. Looks a little bit like a pear, right? Okay? Because of that kind of the way it tapers down like this. They're much smaller than the giant puffball, right? This is about mature size, 1 inch, 1.5 inch is about as big as they get, okay? And again, before you eat these, you're gonna cut them open and make sure they're pure white inside, because and there's no gills, nothing like that in there, okay? Because sometimes an immature mushroom can look a little bit like this, but if it's pure white inside, you see no gills, no other structures, then you know that that's a pear-shaped puffball, all right? The only kind of thing where there's a look-alike to this is something called an earth ball, but if you cut that one open, it's kind of like a brown or a purpley inside, okay? So you're not gonna eat that one, okay? That one's poisonous, all right? But if you cut it open, pure white, pear-shaped puffball, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in our backwoods and we're gonna see if we can find some of those, and then we're gonna show you how to cook them even better. All right, let's go. Beautiful day to be out in the woods today. We got lots of kind of down wood trees that would be potential food for mushrooms. So I always kind of take a few steps and then I stop, look down, look around, see what I can see. If you see something you don't know what it is, you can always pick one and take it back with you to identify later. Don't want to pick all of them though until you know what it is. And regardless, you don't want to pick all of them because you want the spores to kind of be able to go free, and then you'll have mushrooms for next year. And it's a little bit hard to see, but up ahead of us is what we are looking for. Coming a little closer. Now you might be able to see it. And that is the giant puffball. This one's not so giant. It's about the size of a bit bigger than a softball, but that is a really good size for them because they're nice and firm, all right? Nice and white all around, and that one is a good one to pick. You'll feel it give away, and there's where it was connected to the soil. Just right over here, there's another little one. Sometimes you find them all together. This one's got a little bit of damage on it. I might let that one grow for a little bit longer before I come back for it. All right, and this is a good example of why it's a good idea every so often to look down. It's hard to see anything right there, but if we look a little closer, right by my basket, are some of those pear-shaped puffballs. Okay, you can kind of see that pear shape there, right? Very characteristic. There's no kind of sign of gills here. So these ones right here are nice, perfect size. So we'll put these in our basket. So as much as these are supposed to grow on hardwood logs or conifer logs, they also sometimes grow on the ground. So you got to keep an eye out. And here is another giant puffball. This one looks like a good size too. Yeah, that's a good one. Take that one. There you can see its little attachment, right? You can see there's no real other mushroom that looks like this, right? It's big, it's round. That's why it's a good starter mushroom. It's a big giant glob, okay? And here you can see kind of a more typical presentation of those pear-shaped puffballs, right? Growing on a log. These ones are pretty tiny. I'm gonna leave these for a few days to let them get bigger. They're all the way down that little log. So we'll keep an eye on them, and there's more on the tree back over there. A lot of puffballs out this year. So we'll come back for those in a few days. Probably like 2 or 3 days will be perfect. And here you can see some puffballs, some pear-shaped puffballs that I have let kind of set their spores because that's the sustainable way to gather mushrooms, is to make sure you let some of them set their spores, right? You can see that's how a puffball releases its spores. It doesn't have gills, just forms the spores inside its body. All right, you want more mushrooms every year? Make sure that you let some of them mature and set their spores. Super important. All right, so here's today's harvest from our little kind of half acre of woods. 2 nice sized puffballs, and then a decent amount of pear-shaped puffballs. All right, let's go inside and we'll show you how to cook these. Now, generally, you want to eat your puffballs within probably a couple of days, maximum 3 or 4 after you pick them. Fresher the better. Okay, and again, if you pull them out and you see any discoloration, you want to discard those pieces or the whole thing. If you want to store them in the fridge, you're going to put them inside a paper bag, okay, because that's going to allow them to breathe. So currently inside my paper bag, I've got a couple of wine caps that I harvested from my strawberry patch. I sowed that wine cap spawn there in the spring. And you can see we're starting to get some beautiful wine cap mushrooms. I'm going to do an episode on how to do that too. All right, but in the meantime, I'm going to put my puffballs in here too. Okay, so it's the next day and it's time for dinner. And so it's time to cook our puffball. I have just quickly washed this very lightly. You don't want to really soak these. I just scrubbed off the dirt. The only thing that's kind of left is that dirty little part where it kind of was attaching to the ground, and I'm going to cut that off. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into some thick slabs because it's going to shrink as it cooks. So I'm going to cut probably about an inch and a half thick slices of this, and then we're going to make our steaks. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off that bottom portion. All right, and again, that's what your puffball should look like. See, solid, like a block of mozzarella. There's no other structures in there. That's what it should look like. Okay, and that's what tells you it's a puffball. And all can be a little bit crumbly, so do your best. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat up a pan. I'm going to have it on medium to high heat. And what I've got prepared here is some chopped herbs. It can be whatever you want. I have got some rosemary, some fresh rosemary. And then I've got some chives. And then I've just got simple salt and pepper. I'm going to put a dollop of butter in here. And this is what we want, really nice hot butter, okay? Medium to high heat. All right, then I'm going to throw some pepper in there. And I'm going to take about half of our herbs and just scatter them around. And we're going to layer our puffball mushroom steaks on top of that. So now we're going to keep this on that medium to high heat for about 2 minutes until it's nice and browned on the other side, and then we're going to flip it over. And then we'll give it a little check. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put more butter. Not the healthiest meal you've ever seen. A bit more pepper, more of our herbs, and then we're going to put it back on there. So that way those herbs actually get stuck to it. We'll do the same thing with the other side, the other one. And then at this point, what you can do is you've got lots of kind of those good buttery bits there. You can just kind of start gathering some of that up and put it on top. But there are our beautifully cooked puffball steaks. They're salty, they're herby, they're mushroomy, they're awesome. This is like one of the best ways to cook puffballs in my estimation. For those pear-shaped puffballs, you can do pretty much the same thing. Just cut them in half, again, partially to check to make sure they are a pear-shaped puffball. And you can just saute them in butter, herbs, garlic, whatever it is that you like to do. You can put them in a stir fry, whatever you want. All right, you can do a cream of mushroom soup, lots of different options. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that if you see any of these kind of white globs out there in your travels in the fall, that you'll stop, you'll pick up that puffball, if that's what it is, when you make sure, and you'll cook it, and it's wonderful. All right, if you guys have any comments about this, please post them for me. If you like this episode, please feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you again another time. All right, bye-bye.